Okay, welcome to the Health by Hannah podcast. Today I'm with founder of Anada Spa and Wellness. She is the only female aufguss lead globally. She loves all things health and wellness. I'm beyond honoured to have Deborah Carr with me here today and kicking off the first episode of the Health by Hannah podcast. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you very much. It's quite exciting to have you as our first guest, but thank you for coming on. So I want to give a bit of a backstory on how I've met Deb. We first met each other at Hawcross Hall Spa back in December last year. I was asked by my manager, do I want to take part of a sauna ritual course? To be honest, my first impressions were very small-minded and I wasn't too sure about it. Thought I may look silly and not be too interested and didn't have a clue what it was about either. So it was a 3-day course and I absolutely loved it after the 3 days. I completely took back my previous thoughts. There were so many parts to it, the aromatherapy side and the towel techniques and essential oils. So I know a lot of people that going into a sauna is good for your health. However, can you explain some of the health benefits that they give and also the recommended period of time you should be in a sauna for?
Yeah, sure. But first of all, I am so pleased you enjoyed the course. We probably wouldn't be here today if you hadn't enjoyed it. And I think it's really interesting what you've said there, Hannah, because I think there is quite a preconceived idea still about sauna in the UK.
Yeah.
Really, what we're finding is the wellness benefits are being so much more recognised in the UK.
Yeah.
Not just from research that we're doing or is being done in the UK, but from sort of years and years of research and really what people are feeling from these experiences. So obviously there's the health benefits from a physical point of view. So things like detoxification, increase of circulation, strengthening the heart, also, aches and pains. There's more and more research and studies being done about the recovery, how it helps recovery, particularly in athletes and elite athletes. But there's a well-being aspect, like from your mental health point of view as well, from that social interaction, that period of being able to take a mobile phone and a device and, switching off the emails and things like that for a period of time to be in that heat where you can just quieten your mind. So there's the benefits from that as well, which are sort of less seen because they're not so physical.
And how long would you say, I know it's different for everyone, but to be in the sauna for? Especially a beginner?
Yeah, definitely. And this is a question that I get asked a lot. And can cause a lot of controversy because lots of research has been done and a lot of opinion about how long should you stay in a sauna. And also another question with that is where should you sit in the sauna, because
so important.
Definitely. And there's a massive heat difference in where you sit in the sauna as well. So for example, for a new person that is not used to heat, the first thing that I always tell them is listen to your body. Your body is the best indicator of whether you've experienced too much heat or whether you can have more. So the first thing is don't push yourself. This is a well-being experience. And for somebody that's quite new, I would always suggest that they sit on the lower benches. And I certainly wouldn't recommend any more than about 20 minutes to start with. And coming down and cooling the body down is just as important as warming it up in the sauna as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's really important to people that start off, because even I was the person at the beginning that would try and be in there for as long as possible, and it was endurance. It's not like that at all.
No, not
crazy.
At all. Yeah, you still get that.
It's part of my job here at Hawcross Hall. The more I've been doing sauna rituals at work, sometimes even I feel lightheaded because I'm not used to the heat. We know that people who have heart problems and cardiovascular diseases shouldn't go in a sauna. However, to everyone else, what would you recommend to people after they've been in the sauna for a long period of time especially, and how would they recover?
I think the first thing I always say to people is actually be aware of your body before you go in the sauna. So, if you, like you say, if we've not experienced heat or you're not used to it, don't push it. It like we've just said, it's not an endurance test. The idea with this is that you actually go in and you enjoy it. So if you start to get to the point where it really doesn't feel comfortable, then listen to your body and come out. But what I would always say and always recommend is that you cool down slowly. There's a lot of publicity and articles and chatter, I suppose is the best way at the moment, about contrast therapies, which is fantastic. and is great, but I certainly wouldn't recommend that to anybody if they've never done it before. You know, it's like everything. You can't put a pair of trainers on and expect to run a marathon. And it's a bit like with the hot and cold. So it's cooling down really, really gently. You know, I always say to people, take it easy for a good sort of 10-15 minutes after a sauna. Sit somewhere nice and quiet. If you're lucky enough to be able to get fresh air, then take it. And drink water or fluids. I think people often think it's that cold drink, you know, that icy water, which again is possibly not the best thing to do. And I know in a lot of European and Baltic countries, they actually drink like a tepid tea, like a herbal tea, rather than the very cold water, which can be a shock for the body. And same with showers or any submersion in water.
I was going to say, people here go straight to the plunge pool, and I always say just be careful because you're shocking your body from one extreme to the other. And I think that's important for people to know, to slowly recover and take your time and take 10-15 minutes just to cool yourself down instead of going straight into something. But
yeah, definitely. And I would always suggest, you know, keep it steady. It's like everything, build up slowly. You know, you'll enjoy it so much more and you'll feel better for it. But I would always say for sort of showers, cool showers, start with the arms and then the legs and then build up to the body. Never put your head in first, because that's really when, you know, the blood rushes and that's when you will start to feel a little bit wobbly. But yeah, just take your time with it. It's sort of slow and steady wins the race with this, definitely. And if you do want to do sort of plunge activities, I mean, I'm not a cold or contrast therapist, so I can't really advise too much, but I can only say from my own experiences, I personally don't like to go straight from the hot straight into the cold. I think there is that period of cooling down first, cool shower, and then maybe go and do the cool. Or the cold plunge. And
if you think people are feeling lightheaded or fainting, they need something to eat, what would you recommend that they have?
Oh, my favourite and go-to was always like salty, something really salty. And you'll have probably seen I've always got like salty crisps or pretzels or things like that.
McCoys or something like that.
Something like that. See, there's always a secret stash of crisps somewhere.
Just to get that salt in.
And for me it's that. I mean, when we do, I'm part of the international jury for Aufguss VM, which is the competition Aufguss that we do. And we always take a lot of magnesium when we're doing a lot of saunas, and there's a lot of research and some studies done about how much magnesium we lose in our sweat, and actually how your body adapts. The more you are exposed to heat, the less magnesium that you actually lose in your sweat, which I think is quite interesting. But yeah, so magnesium is a good one, like a good old banana, something like that. But I think prevention sometimes is better than cure. So obviously alcohol is a big no-no. That is a big no-no. And something that guests are not always aware of. And keep hydrated beforehand. Make sure you've had something to eat, but nothing a larger meal. Like I certainly wouldn't suggest having a big meal and then going sitting in a sauna, because obviously all the blood and the circulation, everything's at the stomach because it's trying to digest that. And just cool down slowly.
I think it's really helpful for people to know that probably don't, because you search something like that on Google and there's thousands of answers, and it's nice to know a specific thing that you can have. It's some salted crisp that I have after my rituals. It really helps.
Yeah, definitely. Or even some people like sweet things, you know. It's, I think there's a preference, isn't there? You know, sometimes people find that their blood sugars drop a little bit, others it's more the salt. And it's really funny, particularly when you're speaking to sauna masters, they've always got a go-to of things that they like to eat afterwards that, you know, helps them. Sometimes it's like sports drinks, if it's like electrolytes, or like I say, for me, it's the salty crisps.
I love my McCoys as well. In this episode, I really want to focus on the sauna rituals. That's why we're both here, and that's how we got introduced to each other. So I don't think many people have heard of it, and I definitely didn't until December when I saw you. So for people listening that have never heard of a sauna ritual, it's also known as an aufguss ritual. Could you please explain what it is and why should people experience it?
Yeah, definitely. So an aufguss ritual or a sauna ritual, is, like I say, it's a guided experience where you will have a sauna master or a sauna master guide you through that period that you have in the sauna. So aufguss is actually a German word, and it comes from the word infusion. And that infusion is the heat. Obviously, it's a sauna. But to create that the heat, and there's actually a lot of moisture in there and a lot of humidity. Lolu is what the Finnish word for that is, and that's about using heat and water. So the sauna master will gently increase the heat in a controlled way by using water. And they also use ice sometimes as well, but also natural infusions and essential oils and herbs to create fantastic aromas, which they'll then circulate around the sauna with things like towels or fans, or sometimes even branches that they'll bind together, and sometimes they call them whisks, and they're made from sort of birch and eucalyptus and oak and linden, and that's a really good way of taking them around. And quite often there's a theme to the sauna ritual as well, so the sauna master will think before their ritual what they want to get out of it, what do they want the guests to feel, how do they want to benefit from the ritual, and then it can be built from there. So it could be a really nice relaxing ritual, it could be something that's quite uplifting, it could be that you want to focus on health, or sometimes it might be like, particularly in the winter, we do a lot of strengthening respiratory rituals that'll help with sort of immunity and things like that. So really the world is your oyster with as far as creating these rituals, which is really nice, because the sauna master then gets to be able to put their own sort of personality and twist on it as well, which makes it nice for the guests, because they'll experience different rituals all the time.
I'm lucky enough to work here at Hawcross Hall, but if other people want to experience it, if they're not in the Staffordshire area, where can they experience it? I know there's a lot of pop-ups that we mentioned before we started recording, but where's the main spas that people can go and see in the UK?
There's more and more popping up all the time. Like you say, there are the pop-ups, which we talked about before, which are fantastic, because these are very small places that people can go, and quite often used as like community saunas. But the bigger spas that have got the bigger saunas in the UK are possibly places like Rudden Park, where we held the first aufguss championships last year. Obviously, we're both off to Galgorm next month. And they've got a beautiful big Celtic sauna that holds up to 50 people. And then obviously here you've got the new sauna opening up here in the summer, which will be really nice. So I think there's more and more investment in saunas, so I think we're going to see more and more pop-up over the next couple of years.
So I'd say the essential oils are one of my favourite things to do. I'm the one that goes into the Yankee store, and I have done since I was young, and smells every single candle when I go round. Can you explain a little bit more about the essential oils, because I know they're so important in the aufguss ritual, and what are the benefits of them, and why the quality of them is so important?
I think with sauna rituals, the infusion and the aroma is, like you say, it's such a massive part, isn't it? Because that's kind of helps to create the journey. I think your sense of smell is really important, because it's literally connected to the memory system in your brain, so it evokes memories, it evokes feelings and senses. But as part of what we do with sauna rituals, it's all about natural, anything that's natural. So we never like to use anything that's synthetic in the sauna, because obviously that's chemicals in there, and it kind of goes against what we want to produce and create in there. So the aromas a lot of the time come from essential oils, which creates aromatherapy, aroma being the smell and therapy from the therapeutic effect. And there are so many essential oils out there, and essential oils essentially come from the life of organic matter, so plants, barks, flowers, stems, branches, and they're taken, and really the benefits of them are far and wide, as many as there are out there. I think there's over about 300 essential oils that you can choose from. But how those oils are produced is really important, because we want to use oils that have been by businesses and companies that have been very respectful to nature, and how they're harvested, how they're collected, and how they're extracted. Because the purer the oil is, and the higher quality that is, the better the oil is for us to use in our sauna, because it keeps the therapeutic benefits, whether that's relaxing effects from things like lavender and chamomile, or eucalyptus, which is known very well for sort of respiratory, to tea tree, which is quite healing. So there's far and wide sort of therapeutic benefits. But when we can blend them together to make different scents as well. Yeah. So yeah, does that? I feel like I've rambled a bit.
Yeah, no, you
about
haven't. No, definitely. It's important to know the quality, because I know that there's so many different companies out there that don't have pure ones. We said today how to pick out the best ones. And what would you say the 3 main keys are? I know one of them is the batch code that's on it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So when we're looking to buy essential oils, if we've sort of not really got an experience, the first thing I would always say is there should be botanical name for the plant or flower or whatever. So it usually say the name in English, and then it should say underneath it the botanical name. So I would say that's a really good template. If it says it's, essential oil of whatever, and there's no botanical name underneath, I would then start looking a little bit more at that.
Yeah.
Because quite often it'll be either a blend, or it could even be synthetic, and it's an oil of, not an essential oil of.
Yeah.
And it can be quite tricky. Like we said before, batch numbers is always a really good one. And for me, organic is really important, again, because I want to create as natural and authentic rituals as we possibly can.
And why would you say that it's so important to have the best ones? Why, if you had, say, a dodgy one off Amazon, what would that do to you if it was introduced into a sauna?
It can cause irritation in the sauna. Some people might get a little bit of irritation in their eyes or their skin. And you sometimes get like a synthetic smell rather than a natural smell. And that goes against what we want to do. But also, I think it's really nice to understand, or important to understand, that essential oils, they're not necessarily what you would call cheap. But I would say a really good essential oil is an investment. I've got the saying, buy rubbish, buy twice, because you'll use it twice as quick, because you have to use double the amount to get the aromas. Where if you use a really good, high quality grade essential oil, you'll probably only need 1 or 2 drops. So you're being you just don't need that extra, so it'll actually last you a lot longer than buying something that's potentially half the price.
I know we spoke to Robert today because they use the brand Aroman. Are they the sponsors for the Aufguss in Galgorm?
Yes, they're one of our supporters. Yeah,
he said that he's been using them and they last for so long just because of how good they are. So it's important for people to make sure they may be doing a bit of investment, but for in the long run it's going to benefit them more.
Oh, definitely. I mean, when you're buying lots of oils, it can be a bit of a deep breath moment when you see how much it's like, whoa, really? But actually what you'll find is they last, like you say, such a long time, that it's just worth it. And I think it's nice to know that you've got really good tools in your toolbox as well. It's like, I suppose, like a chef with their knives, isn't it?
It's important to get the best quality ones.
Definitely. And they're our tools, and it's great to have the best tools that we can to work with.
Yeah. Part of being a sauna master, and what I definitely find most difficult are the towel techniques. I know we've been doing a lot today, so my shoulders are absolutely killing me, but I watched Pavel on social media, who was last year's Aufguss champion, and I know today we watched Robert and Aleska doing it, and it's just, they're so talented with the things they can do. Can you explain the reason behind why we perform the towel movements in the ritual and what it does?
Yeah, sure. So the purpose of the towel is to move the air around the sauna. So we're using that combination of all these lovely oils and infusions and herbs to create that aroma. But obviously with physics, hot air rises. So that's why we use the towel. We use the towel to catch the air and move the air around the sauna. So we have what we call 2 types of towel techniques, if you like. So we've got what we call our classic techniques. So classic techniques use the 2 hands with the towel to pull the air to the guests, towards the guests. So it might be the very hot air from the top of the sauna, or it might be that we're moving the air from side to side. And these are what I like to call almost like your bread and butter moves, because they're the ones that are actually doing something. Then we move on to what I call your show techniques. So these are the really elaborate, highly technical, but utterly fantastic and mesmerising techniques that we use more in our show and theatrical aufguss. They're really nice to introduce in any ritual, but their purpose is more for sort of entertainment rather than actually the purpose of moving the air around. So if you think of the classic techniques that move the air, the towel techniques that we use in show tend to cut the air. So it's nice to have a balance of both, but obviously it depends on the environment that you're working in as well. So I would say both have a purpose, but I would say the classical techniques are more effective.
Ones like we saw today, they're so nice to look at.
Oh, they're so beautiful. It's so nice to see these very experienced aufguss masters like Robert Zidek, who we've seen today, who's world champion. And I mean, these guys literally train like athletes, because you can't work with these towels the way these guys do without literally putting hours and hours and hours of practice in.
So that rounds up most of the podcast. But before we finish, I wanted to go more into your brand, Anada. Can you talk about your company and let us know what you're up to this year?
Yeah, so Anada sort of came to life really post-COVID. And it was through my love of sort of well-being and nature that really set me on the road down to sauna, really, and what I'm doing now. So what we do with Anada is we've created some very natural-based sauna rituals that we do and that we teach, and then now we've really moved into that education space. So I've taken a lot of the education that I've learned over the years of working in sauna, in not only in the UK but in Europe, and I'm lucky enough to be being invited to Japan to experience sauna there. So we've taken all of that now and really brought that to the UK to try and educate the new and emerging sauna masters. So it's really been an exciting journey, and this year is growing momentum even more now that the sauna rituals are becoming something that people have actually heard of. They've experienced and they've understood it. Businesses are now thinking, this is something I'd quite like to offer. And then people like yourself are like, I might like to try that. So really exciting, lots of training, lots of events happening in the UK. Obviously we've got the second Aufguss Championships, which I'm looking forward to seeing you at, Hannah, next month. And then also we have I'm in part of the, as I say, the international jury, so I'll be travelling again this year, so that's fantastic. And then we'll be looking again, just developing other things in the UK just to keep this momentum going, particularly around sort of education and possibly even some research as well. So super exciting.
Very exciting. And have you got a website that you can say for people to have a look at? So it's nice and easy, www.anada.co.uk. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Deborah.
Thank you. Thanks, Hannah.